Hello, cousins. Welcome to S.A.S.S. Here are the terms of engagement and a few announcements before we get settled into the witchy stuff. S.A.S.S is a public forum that is recorded and posted to YouTube weekly. If you are welcome to be on or off camera for the meeting. Members can change their profile name in the sanctuary community with the BU app. You may notice the admit bubble pop up as people are entering in. The moderator will take care of admitting everyone. We ask that you mute during the recording for clarity during the meeting and for the afterplay. If you would like to participate in the conversation or ask a question, use the raise hand. Also, use the raised hand and comment weigh in the chat to add to the discussion. Feel free to respond with other emoji reactions during the discussion. It helps our cousins feel encouraged and supported. The facilitators of S.A.S do not check the chat. We encourage participants to engage in the group conversation. The chat can be used to ask a question that the moderator will read to the group to weigh in. In the spirit of inclusivity, this will allow people to participate in the discussion. S.A.S is a forum for sharing perspectives, learning, and participating in group discussion. Now I will hand it over to Jen Marie to do announcements.
Happy S.A.S., everyone. I'm refraining from saying what I usually say, should I? Happy Zombie Jesus Day. We used to have throw a big party on this day for those that found it difficult or impossible to spend this day with their family, but still wanted the connection. And so we would throw like zombie Jesus parties. And I lived in Portland, Oregon. And so I think there was even a whole parade that day also, because there's uh, a lot of wayward ones in Portland. Well, at the time that I was there anyway. Um, Announcements for this week. It's funny because we do announcements like a week ahead. And coming up on the 16th is the workshop that I'm going to be doing that's kind of an introduction to connection based parenting and touching base on how to parent while doing this work of deconstructing your social conditioning and the recognition of being like a cycle breaker. And I get asked questions about this all of the time. And if there's enough interest, we can keep doing these workshops and groups on parenting. And when I say parenting, that is like, I mean that as broad as possible. Anyone who has an influence on the next generation would benefit from this this work and understanding this work and understanding how being an influence on the next generation affects your deconstruction process and your shadow work and how you can actually um, go deeper with that. So I love this topic. It's a lot of fun, and we need all the support that we can get. So if that's something that is of interest to you, that is on the 16th of this month of April. And this month we're working on uh, our relationship and bringing our attention to our relationship with our body at the resource center, our physical body. And it every year this brings up new stuff, and it's uh, I almost said it's fun, but it is rewarding and what is the word? To watch how this topic kind of affects us as a community and how connected we really are. And this particular topic is really being driven home for me right now in my personal like journey in practice, and I'm really looking forward to being able to share that with you guys as much as possible, because I truly believe that if we are sharing our lives sincerely, we can really grow and learn from each other. And there's power in that vulnerability and that connection. And again, I'm looking forward to exploring that deeper with you guys. Um, we are only going to have more and more and more events and workshops and things going on. We already have a lot going on at the Resource Center. So, as much as I can encourage you guys to check out the calendar function on the website, that's going to keep you as current as possible as to like what is going on and what we have available. The support team is going through some evolving evolution. We're pivoting uh, and working toward a more flat organizational structure and learning how to support such a diverse community of practitioners. And we're going to be having lots of meetings about that over the course of the next probably several months. And as we begin to crystallize what the future of Bright and Dark is going to look like, we will be sharing that with you. And I am really looking forward to other witches that are out of the closet and feeling called to be on camera, also coming forward and making it to where it's not just my face. Uh, a lot of what we're doing at the Resource Center is trying to deconstruct our ideas of leadership and of um, authority and hierarchy. And having just one face at the resource center isn't super like aligned with that. So I am looking forward again to seeing who kind of rises to that, because it's a special kind of like calling. And yeah, so that's going to start happening. We're going to increase our diversity of like front as well. And lots of committees about things and making it to where there isn't just like one person making decisions about our community. It's more of us. Anyone that wants a place at the table, there's going to be a path figured out to get you there, basically. Am I forgetting any announcements? Can anyone think of anything that I'm forgetting?
Would like to jump on about the event planning team.
Sure, get it.
And I'm going to go ahead and I'll switch the spotlight, or maybe I can
Oh,
add
Lordy. Okay,
the
here we go.
spotlight. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Look, now you're both spotlight.
Ooh, well, there we go. That feels more comfortable to me anyways. But I forgot to ask about putting this on the announcements or anything beforehand. So I thought I'd just jump in and make the announcement. I'm working on drafting a post to put it into the sanctuary community, but with the flattening out and reaching into the community and seeing if anybody wants to be joining in anything, we are going to be starting to plan our upcoming convergences. So we've got the autumnal convergence that's coming up at the end of September, beginning of October. And then we are going to start planning our spring one for next year now, so that we have all the time that we could possibly need. So we are going to be reaching out. So if you are feeling called to join in the event planning or have any interest, please reach out to myself, or you can email support@brightanddark.org, and we can add you to the event planning team, even if you're not sure about how and what that looks like. but like I would like to be a part of it somehow. Um, we're going to have a meeting on the 17th, so not this Monday, but next Monday, to kind of discuss what roles are needed and where people feel like they're going to fit, and then um, like breaking that down of what into teams for the optometrical and the spring convergences, and then we're not quite sure what it's going to look like because we don't know who's all going to be involved. So just wanted to put that out there that come join us if you are feeling whatsoever called into it. So yay.
Yay! And I do want to point out this because this is an alignment resource center, right? And so when you join a committee or start working in support at all, pretty much, it takes you to another level of your practice and brings up all kinds of shadow work. And know that you will be surrounded by people that are going to help you through this because the way that we operate is so different than what people are accustomed to. And it is challenging. It challenges a lot of places where you might have like control issues or where you might have like um I mean, think about all of the things that go into like event planning alone that could bring up strong emotional like reactions within you. So know that if you are going to step into or feeling called to support and be a part of organizational stuff, it's going to bring things up. It is stepping into another part of your shadow work as well. And um, we require everyone that's actually in an official position, like in the hearth keepers and on the support team and everything, to read nonviolent communication because it's such a huge part in the way that we kind of navigate things. And if you need help with that, we've got videos of it. We've got like so many nonviolent communication witches in the community now that are kind of obsessed with uh, the like concept and the way that it approaches uh, collaborative projects. Um, but it is not required to be like a part of organizing, but it will definitely help you in that. So thank you, Wit. For those of you that don't know, Wit is the support person for the event planning committee. They do the organizing and the herding of magical people, which is fun because they fly all over the place. Anyway, um, yeah, and we're gonna be announcing more and more and more of those kinds of like committees and for all kinds of things that have to do with the resource center and our community. So I think that's it. I think we did the thing. Announcements are done. That was pretty quick.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, and the Witchwork Circle's coming up too. I think that is, but calendar function. Check out the calendar function. Okay, so we are as I said, like we're changing a lot of things. Man, there's so like it's not a camera day today, is it, guys? Is there really only two of us on camera? Are we
And
shy?
I usually have mine
Like,
off
how was
because it's so
your
early in the
morning?
morning.
I don't think I've ever seen this many people and then like not have anyone on camera. Because usually when it's a smaller group, it's more like, you know, people are less shy. Uh, how are you guys doing? Man, it's intense energy, like at least for me, like holy shit. Like I had a moment this week where I was like, the spring convergence where we raised energy for our workings and blah, 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 blah. Like, man, did we really need to do that? Because, like, we're already, like, super in the flow of something. And maybe the spring convergence needs to be like, a huddle up time of, wow, we've dipped our toes into the energy of what's coming this year. Let's regroup and like recharge and then bust out. I don't know, but I could really use a huddle up, you know. Ugh, my my body's like spilling all of the tea this month. And I find that interesting because like that's exactly what we're working on as a community. And to have it so like right up in my face is like that is my priority this month is repairing my relationship with my body, not just for my like experience of humanity, but because we're all learning this too. Like, and I know that the more I learn about it, the more I can share about it. And so it's kind of giving me a little bit more of a glimpse as to kind of my role or my calling or what I'm supposed to be doing is like, oh, I'm supposed to like swan dive into the fire apparently, figure shit out and then come back and be like, "Hey guys, I'm fucking burnt as shit, but hey, I learned this really cool thing." But I got to figure out how to not do the burnt as shit thing, you know, because I've not been a very good advocate or partner to my body. I like have not. And I know better. See, and that's the struggle. And it's so hard when you know better, but you still choose to do the thing. Like why? So hard. That's the big question. So that's a big question. Anyone want to take a poke at that? Like why do we do that?
I'm going to take a poke at that.
Poke it. Poke it.
Well, at least from my most recent experience, I know that, uh, I mean, man, I've been working on this since August, like strictly, and really diving deep. And of course, I get like OCD about it and like all in one direction and forget to merge everything together. Um, but it, I know right now for me, it's I'm afraid to go back to the conditioning. So even though my body is telling me something right now, I'm so afraid to do what I need to do for it because I'm afraid that that conditioning of the whole diet culture and everything else will start taking over. It's kind of like I'm paranoid to do what I need to do for my body because once I start doing it, it goes back into that in some aspects. And I don't want to get caught up in that again. Like I'm terrified that I'm just going to like slip right back in there and become like really obsessive about every little thing I eat and like how much I'm eating, which I already know I'm not eating enough. So I do need to start logging my food again to make sure I'm eating enough. There's something I'm eating right now that's affecting my body. So I'm having like flare-ups of like eczema and stuff like that. Um, so it's like I know I need to do a really strict diet as well, um, which is hard here in Japan because of like I like eating fish, but I can only eat so much, and that's what I'd have to like strictly go to. Um, so that would be something a little bit harder. And the stress of that, like, am I able to deal with that right now? So it's really going to be like, it's that I know what I need to do and I'm listening and I can hear my body telling me, but I'm so scared. That fear is so there that I'll slip back into those horrible habits, those horrible, like, thought processes that it is like it's hard to take that next step. And so it's like, which direction am I gonna go? It's like how crispy do I wanna be? So that's what I'm experiencing right now and how, like, it's been harder to process it. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing right now, and I see that Ray wants to weigh in as well. Go ahead, Ray.
Hi. Roxanne, I was called to share something with you. So yesterday I was over at Oceans and we were hanging out and I was talking about a lot of the same fears. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Um and Ocean said something that really clicked with me that I feel could really help you as well. Um they said that your body can never slip backwards into old habits because you have more knowledge and more wisdom and skills that you can never go backwards to be in that place because you know what to do and you know more coping skills and things like that of how to help than before you did because you I'm sorry, my words are all over the place. I feel like I'm not making sense. But basically, you know more than you did before, and so you're not slipping backwards. Even if it may seem like you are, you're still going forward because your body physically cannot move backwards because you'll never be in that same past situation again.
Oh, I love that, Ray. That was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yes.
thank Ocean. They're so smart.
I will thank Ocean later too. Like, Ocean. You so much. Yeah, remembering that sometimes is difficult. Um, so thank you for the reminder, and I'll thank Ocean as well later. Is there
Anytime.
is there any okay, Jen Marie?
I'm figuring this out. Um, I love that. Like for me, it's like it's almost for me, it's almost like it's still an inconvenience for me of some kind, like to actually like feeding myself, right? Um, and I know that food is like a huge thing in like the wellness industry and all that. Like I health and wellness. I've never kind of fallen into that. So I'm unfamiliar with it, but I am like a binge eater. Which a lot of ADHDers are this way, where we go all day long, not eat anything, and then for like 3 hours at the end of the night, just like eat as much as we can because we're starving, right? And that's just how I've always been. And my poor body's just like put up with it for this long. But now, like I said, spilling all the tea, I cannot do that anymore and still function at all. It's like, oh, if you don't feed me, I like my brain functioning is affected. And so I like have to feed myself. And man, is it amazing that our bodies can nope us out like that. Like, hey, you're not listening to me, so here you go. Now you have to listen to me. And I'm finding that, like, what I'm really, really trying to do is like actually cultivate a relationship with my body. And as weird as it is, and I'm fucking fine with looking weird, I talk to my body and interact with my body as if it were a friend as much as possible, is what I'm trying to do. But the food thing, man, it's so hard. It's so hard. And I don't know, I'm still going back and forth, is like, is this a place that I can cultivate, or is this a place that I need support? Right? Is this, because that's such a fine line. How do you know the difference between I've just never learned how to do this and my system is just incapable of doing this? You know what I mean? Oh God, it's so difficult. The whole thing. And then thinking, like, when I'm tired, just giving up. So instead of eating the things that I know is actually going to help me energetically, I'm like, oh God, that popcorn's amazing. Theater popcorn for the win. Right. And it's just, I am still untangling those like knots of why we do this. I sure wish that there was a behavioral therapist that I could like talk to about how do I do this, and how do I know the difference of what is that line? Anyway, so then we don't have to keep talking about this. And I don't have to like lead the conversation. If anybody else has any questions that are completely like sideways, you're welcome to. Are we just quiet because we just want to hang out and need support? Because that's totally cool too.
You want to know something funny?
Of always.
As we were starting and I pulled an oracle, it was support.
I do have to say that since I have been paying so much more attention to my body, I'm far from where I'd like to be and where my body needs me to be. But man, have I been like on it with channeling and on it with messages and things like that. Like being able to have conversations with people and just like say things, and they're like, wow, that's like all of this other stuff. And like that kind of conversational, I'm picking up on a lot more. Anyway, it's amazing how you're bringing your attention to your relationship with your physical body actually affects your energetic body and your mind. Like it's super sad. And I'm dreaming again. It's like, oh my God. Anyway. Oh, that's another thing I see that Melanie wants to weigh in, but I have another thing I would love to talk to you guys about this. Okay.
Melanie, go ahead with your weigh in.
I just have a quick comment, so hopefully it doesn't derail you. And it just popped up in my head when you mentioned popcorn, which was, I wondered if you've made a list of the foods, like your preferred food list. So like when you're like, I should eat this, but I'd rather eat that. If you've made a list of the, I'd rather have the popcorn list, and if that correlates to like a time period, or like an inner little, and what was going on with you then, and if there's something there that corresponds to like why you don't want to feed your body the things that you know that you should, instead of the popcorn. That was it. That's all I had. When you said popcorn, I was like, I wonder when the popcorn thing started, and if there's more foods around the same popcorn era. That's it. That's all I got.
Ooh, that's really good. I love that you brought it to that because that actually, popcorn was random, but I have this thing in the evenings, right? At night, I have to have something sweet after dinner, always. And it's one of those things where I just have like these deep cravings for sweet. Um, it's like the way it has to like it's not complete without that. And that is absolutely a little thing. Because of, I was raised like really, really, really like poor. We didn't have anything. And so like sweet things, candy, I didn't get sweet things at all. And that was very much an emotional reward kind of thing. And I still give my little that, you know what I mean? But it's a matter of like that stopping point of it's one thing to give your little that thing, but then it's like, you know, I'm gonna have the whole carton of ice cream, instead of like, "Oh, I'm gonna give my little an ice cream cone, right? And it's so funny. It's so funny. And but yeah, that's a part of a thing, huh? I hit a wall.
I'm gonna weigh in on that. So something I have noticed in the past few months is that with certain foods, we have memories connected to them. And a lot of times they're the ones from our childhood that were the really good memories. So that's why they end up becoming our comfort foods. And a lot of times we don't realize that connection it has to that memory until it's like pointed out to us. So like ice cream for me, I can't eat it anymore unless I get like non-dairy ice cream, but I had ice cream every night with my grandparents um, when I stayed with them in the summer. So, I mean, those were just my best memories. So that's why ice cream is one of my more happy foods. Um, and for a while, it was really hard to like take that out of my diet and switch over to like the non-dairy ones because it didn't have that same connection um, as just a regular bowl of ice cream did. So that is one thing that also to look at is when you have some of those foods, he's being extra this morning. Um, what kind of memory is connected to it? And if you do have to, like, for some reason, take that food out of your diet, it doesn't change that memory. You still have that memory. You still can look back on it with those same feelings without associating it to the food. Then, Kim, I saw you had your hand up.
I basically was gonna sort of a weigh in, I guess. As you were talking about like the foods and how like the memory, and I love spaghetti like no one else, and I like it clicked in that moment why that is a comfort food, because that was a happy time for me because I was living with my grandparents, and she's the one that like taught me how to like cook and stuff and gather people together and cook for them and put all that love and intention into the food. Like, she was probably a witch and she didn't even know it, even though she was like fully a Christian and like, but she was always the one always telling me, and I had a moment of like remembering her telling me that to do whatever, to do the things. And like, if I wanted to sing, even if it was in the church choir, just do it. And I did it with her. And I don't know. I just had some grandma memories flood back and I got emotional about it. So I figured I would tell you guys that whole food memory there. So
Thank you, Kim. Jennifer, you wanted to weigh in?
Yes. Yes, yes. So with it's bringing back to this. So what I'm trying to do right now is finding, like what I said, I figured out that my little needs like a treat, and that what I was doing was like, giving my little, the being like not conscious about things, right? I wasn't being conscious about the choices that I was making. And I'm realizing now that what's going on is kind of an argument or disagreement between my body and my mind. And I haven't intervened yet, or figured out how to intervene yet, and figured out who's saying what, right? And my mind is being like, oh, there's this emotional thing, and we're just going to blah, 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 and we need as much of it as we possibly can, because more of it means that I'll feel better, right? And my body's like, that is not how this works. And you like, it's this, that's kind of this disagreement. So, what I'm trying to do is be very intentional, or as intentional as I can, with those, like the treat in the evening. Like, and I was telling Steve just recently that I wanted to get like a box of super fancy chocolates, and then just have one super special little like chocolate a night, and have a special little tray, and make it as like celebratory and special as possible, because then it's meeting the needs of my mind, and also being considerate of the needs of my like physical body as well, and trying to find those balances of how can I still, how can we resolve how can we resolve this and do this so that everybody wins inside. And it's interesting because of like learning that, hey, my body actually really doesn't like this thing that I've been like giving it or doing for a long time, and yet my mind hasn't let go of that they want it or like it, right? And that kind of like play is what I'm trying to do. But that's that's interesting. Like, how do you resolve the like emotional mind stuff and the body stuff? But if if no one else has a way, and I can switch, it's actually switching to a different system, part of my system. This actually came up in a private session last week. No, 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 it came up in a reading that I had with Miss Julie Storm last week. And the so there is a part of my personal giftings that I have been avoidant of since I was a child. Super freaked me out when I was a kid, and I shut that all the way down. And still as an adult, I don't knock on that door. I don't even go close to it, because it's like, man, I'm fine with all of the other things that I do. I am comfortable with my like clear cognizance. I'm comfortable with channeling. I'm comfortable with, all of this other stuff. But there is a part of my energetic body that I intentionally shut down. And it's like, that is like energetic shadow work. And it was the first time I realized, oh, this is that part of repairing our relationship with our system is looking at those parts too. And by not allowing my energetic body to fully like stretch out, I'm adding stress to other areas of my energetic body. Just like it's like I have two it's like I have two legs, and I'm choosing to hop around on one, and it works because it gets me around. I have this other leg, but I'm choosing not to use it because of like a childhood trauma with it, right? And this is it's clairvoyance. Like, like intense clairvoyance, to where any flat surface becomes images, faces, figures. Any textured surface becomes faces, figures, pictures. And I would shut that down. I used to do art, painting, where I would actually paint what I was seeing. Um, but this, again, I was a child when I was doing this, and I have not touched it since, because I started to be afraid of what I was seeing and didn't understand it and didn't have training, and shut it down. Same thing with dream work. Because of my CPTSD, my dream work went sideways, and I was dreaming from a trauma, place of trauma and stuckness. And so, hello weed. I started smoking weed, and there's nothing like pot to stop your dreams. It's a dream killer. And I am backing off on my um like, I'm doing a tolerance check with weed and kind of changing my relationship with that. So it's affecting my dreams a lot now too. And so there's this like, I'm remembering the prophetic dreams that I used to have again as a kid, and then talking to my mom about it. She can tell, she remembers a lot of the dreams and things that I had when I was a kid, but I shut it down. And so it's this like, huh, like I could tell you that 6 months ago, when I was like, oh, because it's same thing with like entities, being able to see entities, right? It's clairvoyance. uh I could see it, and it scared the shit out of me, and I stopped and I shut that down. And what brought it up was Dessa and I watching like these ghost hunter things, and she was asking like, oh, what, I think Wit was up here when we were going through this. And I'm like, you do not want to watch a ghost hunter show with me, because like I can't help but talk about what it is that they're doing and like their approach and all of the things. And remembering, oh yeah, I used to totally interact when I was a child with these like things, and shut it down, freaked me out. And I was like, yeah, I could totally live the rest of my life and never open that up again. Like, ha ha ha, spirit guides, that's really fucking funny. And they're like, oh yeah, here's some catalyst about balance in your energetic body. So yeah, that's this thing. Does anyone want to like talk about it?
Ray, did you want to weigh in?
Um, no, I'm sorry. It was about um the subject before um talking about your entities. I'm sorry. I don't want to derail you.
That's okay, because I'm going to bring it back to that. So if you want to go ahead.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, I just really connected with what you were saying, Jim Marie, about how um with your relationship with food, how your body is telling you like I don't need this and it's not healthy for me, but your mind can't let it go. That's something I've been struggling with a lot too. Um, especially lately because I've been gaining a lot of weight and I've been doing a lot of bad habits when it comes to food. And so I've been struggling like a lot with it. And I don't know how to get my brain to let it go. And it's like, I know what I need to do, but for the life of me, I can't get myself to do it. It's like when you're sitting on the couch and you see that, oh, there's so many dishes in the sink, but you just keep doom scrolling on TikTok because you can't get yourself to just fucking get up and do the goddamn dishes. And it's so frustrating. And so I'm sorry you go through that too, because I know how frustrating it is. And hell, I'm 28 and I'm 29. I'm 29 and I've had 2 fucking heart attacks already. I know that what I'm doing is not healthy, but for the life of me, I cannot fix my relationship with food. And it's like, it's become a crutch for me. When I'm sad, I go to food. When I'm bored, I go to food. When there's anything wrong with me mentally, food is the thing I go to. And it's so frustrating. I wish humans didn't need to fucking eat. Because it's just. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was rambling. That's just my 2 thoughts on it. Go ahead, Jim Murray.
Take it, Jen
Or
Marie.
Roxanne. I don't know who was first.
So what this okay. So Ray, like we are not alone. Like by show of hearts in the blah, how many of you really struggle with your relationship with your physical body? This is something that is so common that we are actually developing a program like right now. We've got a group that is working on developing a program to help in repairing your relationship with your physical body. Roxanne's on
I'm
that
gonna need
group
a
so
message when
far.
that gets
What's that?
I'm gonna need a message when that gets out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's something that is complicated and it needs uh some time and attention. And Roxanne and Wit and I, so far, that's who's on the team, but more people are also going to be called to like working and developing this program because it's so freaking important. It's so important for us to do this. But yeah, we'll let you know as soon as it comes out and as it's even developing because it's going to be a part of announcements and things. So, yes, yes, yes. You're not alone and we're going to get through this. Like we're going to figure this out. All right.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to pivot because we're great at that. Back to what you were talking about, Jen Marie. I actually was how to see images in everything. Like my grandfather taught me how to do that. And I think that's the only thing that's made it easy transitioning back to my clairvoyance because that aspect was always encouraged. Though everything else was shut down, my dreams were shut down, seeing entities was shut down. All that was shut down from a very young age. But he always encouraged that. And like still to this day, I'll look at something and I can like morph it into whether it's an animal, a person, something. And sometimes it's a little more difficult. Like my husband has his jeans hanging on a door. And literally every time I walk into the room, it startles me because I turn it into an image of someone standing there because it's just at that like right angle. So yeah, that's the one thing that like I think has made it so that I was able to go back to accepting my gifts and my clair because of being taught that. And then Jenny Lee, did you have a weigh-in or something different?
Kind of a weigh-in addition.
Okay.
Um,
Go ahead.
my when I was a kid, I would have long conversations with people who weren't there and was repeatedly told that you can't talk to people that aren't there. And so I just quit. And when I went to college and my friends and I moved into our first house, it was haunted by a lovely old man. Um, and he would stand in our doorways and just watch us sleep. And it was so comforting. I never engaged with him because I had been so conditioned not to. And now when I think back to it, I'm like, all he wanted was for somebody to see him. He just wanted for one of us girls to acknowledge he was there. And so now I feel like, man, I wish I had just said something. But now, I see my mom a lot. She comes and I smell her, and I see like the edge of her shirt, or I'll see, I'll hear her walking. And Davy, I hear him and I smell his soap all the time. And so I know that they're there. And it's taken so long for me to be okay with that and to not push it aside. And I feel like we all spend so much time and energy pushing aside the things that could bring us so much comfort just because we were told so often not to engage. I think that's sad because seeing those things now brings me comfort, and engaging with those entities now brings me comfort. So.
Thank you, Jen Marie.
So, yes, right. So as a child, I was legally blind. So the only thing I could see was this other like stuff, right? Which is why it like super, super freaked me out. But my family, is my mom on here today? Is she on here? I'm looking first. Okay, because she won't admit to this. Practiced Appalachian folk magic. It was the closest to what my family line practiced, was that they're from that area. And the way that they took it was very superstitious, and was very like fear based when it came to entities and seeing things and that kind of stuff. And so uh, I wish I had had training as a child to not be afraid of these things. And so now it's like, but knowing that gives me the clue as to what I need to do in order to repair that relationship, right? Is to go back to that little and work with them on what they were seeing and what they were experiencing. And because that's where the work is. Do you see what I mean by that? How that the work that I need to do this is not in the present so much. The choice is in the present. Um, but the work is with the child. And man, it's interesting, right? Of those kinds of things. So, God, guys, I have no idea how this is going to be, but I am totally committed to. Uh, I know I'm shaking my head. I'm doing all of the things of like resistance and everything, to exploring this part, this bit more. Melanie,
Okay,
you want?
so I had what? Oh, so I had religious trauma around some of my giftings, I guess, where I was a little bit older, and when it came out that I had prophetic dreams and I could see things, I had a religious community that terrorized me about those giftings. And I shut down. And some of it I've gotten back, most of it I haven't. So I'm listening to you and I'm like, okay, so I'm hearing inner child work, but how do you heal that kind of inner child trauma? Like, I understand it in the scheme of things, but I'm like, I was like traumatized. And yes, I kind of betrayed myself and listened to these people, but I was so I was like as a child and a neurodivergent child in the Catholic Church with like literally being told I was going to burn in hell if I didn't revoke in front of God these things. Like I would have nightmares that I was gonna burn in hell. Like the fear that was instilled in me. Like I don't know how to fix that trauma, I guess. Like I understand what you're saying. I just don't know how to do it.
And then, is it Isa or Issa? Did you have a weigh-in?
Hi, yes. I've never said this to anyone before. Um, I've always been afraid, but I feel in such a safe space. As a child, and I'm talking, I guess 5, 6, up until I was a teenage, I used to have nightmares and visions of the devil himself in my home in different areas. I would scream to my mom, and there was a point where my mom told me, I'm afraid of you and get away from me. So I learned to stay away and to shut that down. Then my dreams changed from that to just having a lot of dreams, some which were very beautiful and others I questioned. But I had always shut that aspect down, and that is why I had not uh, dived into any of what kept calling me. I always picked up books on witchcraft of different types, but I put them down because I always heard my mother's voice saying that she was afraid of me and that I scared her. And so I learned to shut it down. And now finding this group, I finally found some peace where I can at least release some of what I was so afraid of before. And now I've learned throughout my life that there's nothing to be afraid of, but there's a lot of messages that I still don't know how to interpret. And I'm just thinking that throughout my path here, I'm going to be able to get more answers and to finally start accepting me and what I've felt or what I've seen or what I dream for nothing that was frightening. That's more or less what I wanted to share.
Thank you so much. We're so glad you're here and that you have somewhere now.
Thank you.
Jenry, you wanted to weigh in?
Do I ever? Oh, this is so good. Like healing from doing trauma work is something that I am super passionate about and am still incarnated because of the work in trauma that I've done personally. Uh, and so this is going back to so what apparently words are hard. I'm so excited to talk about this that I'm stumbling over my words about it. Um, I am currently working on the way that I uh, share information because I don't want to present it as this is the way. I want to present information as this is what I have found helpful and this is what I have done. And so, what I have done with some of that, and what I also intend to do with repairing my relationship with this aspect of like my gifting, is when those emotions come up. So you're making the choice of I'm making the choice to explore this part of my system and starting to dip your toes in a little bit, right? You don't have to swan dive into um like dream work or or any of that kind of stuff. You can slowly allow yourself to do it to where your boundaries are comfortable saying, okay, I'm allowing myself to explore this thing. And it's just choosing to put your attention there that does a lot of that healing. but it's the follow through that repairs the relationship. So, um, this dream work, for instance, is when you choose to do dream work, a common thing to do would be to start journaling that. And the reason that we start journaling is because it shifts your awareness and makes it to where you're saying, yes, I am choosing to align with this. Yes, I am open to this relationship with this aspect of my system. And so you are curious about it. And so by doing that and recording it, it's bringing it forward and showing that part of your system that you are serious, right? You're dedicated and you're going to foster this relationship. And um I look at these anytime that I am developing or repairing a relationship with anything, I treat that thing as a close friend and try to approach it with that level of sincerity. And so if I look at my dreams and looking into like my ability to do dream work, I am going to do things like before I go to bed, actually talk to my that aspect and invite this space. I invite my system to show up for me in my dreams with a message. What message do I need to know? And then go to sleep, have a dream, and then write down what your dream is. That's very, very basically that. But there's a lot of dream workers in our community that you can get like more detailed instruction with that kind of stuff. But anyway, it's the choice of doing it and then following through that repairs your relationship, just like you would want someone to treat you to repair a relationship with you, right? There's that sincerity. You can tell when someone's just doing something to get something out of you. And so be sincere with that part of yourself. Um, that's what I have found is the most effective approach. It's all about sincerity. Was that helpful or was I rambly?
No, it was helpful, but I realized something. I was like, so I take a lot for a long time. And then when I'm done, I'm done. So I'm like, I've never actually, when somebody's actually broken my trust, there's no repairing it. Like I'm just like I'll associate, but there's no repairing. So I'm like, there's no real back from that for me. So I'm like, yeah, damn. It's like I've never done that work for somebody before because I will put up with so much shit. It give you I'm like, but once you actually like cross the threshold of like the fuck you threshold, mm, I don't have a way back from there for you. Like, not really. Like there's a mask that doesn't ever come back off. So I'm like, I don't know how to fix that for myself because I've so that's what when you said that I was like, oh yeah, but I don't know what that looks like because I've never done that for anybody else before, not myself. And like I'll take them. I know you're screaming in your chair. All right, I'll let you get at me.
Oh, I wasn't even muted. I'm so sorry, guys. Oh my God. Right? Okay. Twisty pokey. You ready for a twisty pokey?
I'm always ready for a twisty pokey.
Okay. So your system is exactly how you are. Like they're exactly the same. So your inability to forgive or like work through or allow reparations for others is the same as your ability to allow reparations within yourself. And so really looking at like your openness for reparations, like there's boundaries, right? But your system is treating you like you treat others that have crossed boundaries because you have been a tyrant to your system. So how would you treat a tyrant to you? Right? You can do this, but holy fucking shit, your guides are hardcore, man.
It's gonna take a long time. I'll tell you that.
Right? Pokey.
And it's not
Risky
gonna
pokey.
and it's not gonna be about like saying, it's gonna be about doing and showing up. And yeah,
Mhm.
like I don't know. Have not written that script. And my attitude is it's not a script that I need to be writing. So you better get your shit together and figure it out. So I'm arguing with myself now.
You're welcome. I love you.
Oh, okay. So feeling a little called out by that whole interaction. Um, but as we've been talking, I started remembering some things that as middle schooler that we would do when me and my friends would get together. And there was two things that we did. We literally would call upon entities to show themselves. Um, and actually seeing them, like totally saw them and like got that validation from friends because they were seeing the exact same thing. But then of course happened to shut that back down. And then one thing that we did is we would put each other in trances. And now I'm kind of getting pinged by that because I literally would put my friends into trances and guide them through these different tunnels. And they'd see different things and we'd explore that. And it's like, okay, how does that translate now? Like, where can that lead to now? So that was just something I had pop in my head. It's like, oh man, another rabbit hole to go down and figure out how that gifting works. Um, because I've started figuring out my dreaming, though there are some days where I'm just like baffled and like, okay. And like with last night's dream, though like I remember it, I can't write down what it was about or say what it was about. So I know it's just one of those ones where I was just doing workings and yeah. So go ahead, Petra.
Hi, friends. I'm just like shoveling stew into my face. Sorry, you're like, go ahead. And I was like, I'm slurping soup at this exact moment. So that was very serendipitously timed. So there's a bunch of different things, but I wanted to just kind of like also be like, we're talking about bodies and things like that. And mine is like having a very tough time. Our heat is out and like it's very triggering from like some stuff in the past. And so somatically, like in my meat suit, my body is like, so I had to like, we started S.A.S and I literally like, I'm going to be really honest and vulnerable about this because I think this is very human. And I want everyone to know that like, this is a perfect example of how like bottom up, like body to brain works. Is that like, I was irritable as fuck. Everything everyone was saying, I was just like little Tasmanian devil. And I was like, whoa, dude, what the F? And I was like, okay. I checked in and I was like, I'm hungry and my meat suit is mad and I need to move, but we're like here and I can't go for a walk. It's okay. Got my mat out, did my stuff, moved my meat suit, like did a little yoga flow while I was listening to everyone and just like could, as I listened, felt the just general irritability in that voice that was like just chill out. And I think that in our society, we're so like mind focused. It's so like top down. We're like mindset, you can control your body. And it's like the body's older than the mind. Like our mammalian brain, our lizard brain, like our brainstem and all those survival reflexes, all of that stuff is older. It has more practice. It comes online first. And only do we get access to like a centered, grounded, like kind of sense of self in our prefrontal cortex, the newest part of our brain, which is only like 200,000 years old. Once we've kind of like worked with the underlying physiology. And so I think that's why, like, so many times, you know, like my husband's very like, I just want to think through all my problems and ruminate until my brain explodes. And I, because of science, am like, bro, like, can we just go for a walk around the block and just like downregulate our amygdalas? Like, the fear response is, the force is strong, the fear is strong. Can we just do this? And so I just wanted to share that because I think it's very human. And also this like demonstration of like an hour ago when we started, I was like physiologically in a completely different space because of what was going on with my meat suit, because I didn't listen to my body before I stepped into this space and was like, no, it's fine. I don't need to like go for a walk. I'm going to do this. I'm just going to be in my little brain. And then my body was like, hey, fucker. Like, nope. I'm going to make you miserable and spoil this thing that you love because I need attention. And not in a, like, I say, hey, fucker, because like I have some tricks for you guys. And there's a lot of love behind that. But there's like, my body is very much like, hey, you. Like, so I just wanted to share that piece because it's very like timely, I think. And then the other pieces, there were like so many different things that people said, and I just wanted to share. I got pinged to share like this book, which is like the best book in the whole world, Journey to the Heart by Melody Beattie. She's like the codependency queen. She did like Codependent No More and Beyond Codependency, and the daily meditation books she has are like Language of Letting Go and More Language of Letting Go. This book came into my life in 2010 in a yoga class, and like is still like, I read it not every day because that would mean I don't have ADHD. But I read it not infrequently, and it like brings up stuff. And I'm like, I've been reading this for years. And so I just wanted to share this piece and then kind of share some stuff around what I was thinking about with everybody's shares that was relevant. So this is very short, by the way. This says April 9th. Take better care of yourself. Take better care of yourself than you ever have before. That's what your heart is telling you to do. Those times of driving yourself, depriving yourself, not being gentle and loving with yourself will no longer work. Punishing, criticizing, repressing, and denying won't bring the feelings, the growth, the results you're seeking. The harder you push, this part is so important for me and also just like punches me in the gut. The harder you push, the more relentlessly you demand perfection, the worse you'll feel. Fall in love with yourself. Be gentle, loving, kind, and attentive. Take time throughout each day to tend to your needs just as you would to tend to someone you love deeply and dearly. Loving and caring for yourself this way won't waste time. It's not a delay. Take better care of yourself and life's magic will return. Your life will improve. You will feel better too. Taking care of yourself is a simple act with profound consequences. The better and more often you care for yourself, the more you'll align with the universe's love. It says and God's love, but like it's Zombie Jesus Day, and I was like, I don't like that word right now. God, whatever it means to you. Like, I kind of have been playing with it. Like, I think that my experience of God has been more in relationship to ancestors, so that's food for thought for another time. But what I wanted to speak to was in all of these things, like food and bodies and meat suits and like eating enough, not eating too, like eating too much, how we soothe with food, like our giftings and like, you know, deep trauma around those things. The practice that came into my life through yoga and through books like this and through TED Talks from people like Kirsten Neff, who's like a huge self-compassion researcher, is self-compassion and just like the radical power of accepting ourselves wherever the fuck we are and being like, we don't have to like it. Like, I think that that's a thing, is like we think that because if we accept something, then it's either a failure or we'll never stop doing it, when the truth of the matter is that, you know, psychologists like Carl Rogers say like we can't actually change until we accept ourselves. We can't actually change until we provide ourselves with compassion and care. And that is demonstrated also in like every relationship that I have ever had, which is very frustrating to some of the parts of me that are just like, why can't I just kick you in the butt and make this better? Like, why is that not an option? Because shame and shaming and the toxicity of such is so prevalent in our society. It's a part of every system that we interact with on a daily basis. It's a part of our advertising and media, and we're marinating in it. And I think that self-compassion is a radical and revolutionary act. And it also is something that doesn't say, I don't ever have to change, or nothing ever, like everything will always be the same or whatever. It just says, I see myself here and now, and I matter. And this makes sense. And even if it doesn't make logical sense, I know that as a person, shit happens. And eventually, when I feel safe enough, things will shift. And I just think that there's a lot of power in those things and a lot of potency. And I'm someone who's like very much like, I love the mind, obviously, and like cognition and things like that. But the relationship that I inadvertently, as like someone who's very deep in the sciences and very deep in like that kind of stuff, that I built with my body through practices like yoga and learning to be more present and learning to like orient to the world around me and to utilize like my body's physiology to facilitate healing and to facilitate acceptance of where I am, because there's a point where stuff shifts and shame, how do I explain this? Shame has this like visceral response. And I think sometimes we reach that point with other people first. I'm going to read that comment in a second. I was just like, what? Meat suit hangry? I'm like, it's not hangry anymore, thank God. But where we can, where we might like vitriolically even like rebut the shaming of others to us, but we might be less aware of the internal shame that we still carry, that we still hold, all of the ways that in the eyes of society, which like is a social function, right? Like we want to belong because that means safety. That's not, you're not fucked up for like wanting to look or feel or be how society tells you you're supposed to be, because you're literally evolutionarily wired to not be alone, because you would have died. Your ancestors wouldn't have made it. And so I just think that that's really important to like highlight those things. And so the times, like I feel like these contexts to me always bring more awareness and more compassion. And for people who are mentioning about like being told they were going to burn in hell and having parents being afraid of them and all of these things around giftings, like I have so much compassion for you. I did not experience that. I grew up in evangelical circles and these types of things were like lauded, but they were also terrifying. And they also, I've had experiences of seeing shit and knowing shit and premonitions about people dying, like you name it, like all of them. Like when people are like, what clarity? I'm like, the whole thing. All of them, I have them. I also have premonitions. I also have mediumship. And it's all fucking really scary sometimes because it's a lot. It's a lot. And I have had to put boundaries on that part of my stuff to work with my body, because I also think that if we do this work, I'm going to say this is my personal perspective and everybody is entitled to their own opinion, and I'm going to say it really strongly because it's really important to my journey, but I want to put the caveat on it that like however you negotiate the journey, like your spiritual path between you and your body and your energetic body and your consciousness and all of this, totally on you. It has nothing to fucking do with me. If this resonates, great. If it doesn't, fucking check it out. It's always welcome. Is that like I needed to work with my body, before I could encounter those things, before I could do more work with them. Because when I was in a really physiologically unsafe place, I was getting premonitions of like people dying, and it was absolutely terrifying. My body was like so dysregulated, and I didn't have capacity to hold space for the information that was coming in, because I think my body couldn't hold those boundaries because I was disconnected from it. And so I just want to say that like this work is not one size fits all, and it's also, you're allowed to have boundaries with what filters through until you feel safe enough to let more through. This is not something I've realized in spiritual work, is that like this is a relationship between you and yourself and you and the outside, and there's a flow between all of those things. And you don't have to take things, that idea of domination in like, well, you have this gift so you have to do it right now, that is a part of our culture, and that's a part of the dominant culture of you don't have agency or sovereignty and choice. And what I really wanted to say is that you always have agency and sovereignty and choice. You are always allowed to tell your guides to fuck off. You are always allowed to tell your ancestors to fuck off. You are always, fuck off is a completely, it's a life-saving boundary. And you are allowed to lovingly, I would say, and I don't want to say loud, because I've done this with me, where I've have parts of me that are so intense. They're programming, the controlling, the criticism, the crap. In my internal voice sometimes literally could just devastate another human. Like when I've repeated things that I hear inside out to my husband, he's like, holy shit, that's Jesus. Pardon me if anyone likes Jesus, and that's a swear. But and I will often just deal with those things in a neutral sense and be like, I hear that I've understood that this inner critic pops up when I'm like physiologically dysregulated, when I need to attend to my meat suit in some way, when there's emotions that I'm trying to repress or deny or whatever. And I used to started calling my inner critic my inner herald, where I was like, thanks for the information, like the do. But thanks, but like, okay, I'm just like gonna ignore the fact that you just like told me this incredibly terrible intrusive thought about like dying or people I love dying or some awful things. And I'm gonna like just go right to dealing with the meat suit. And that was really helpful. And it helped the voice, those parts chill out. And often those things inside of us, those like kind of more challenging parts of ourselves, if we can't find compassion for them by being like, hey, I hear you, this is really hard and whatever, and we can't validate that internal experience, sometimes just acknowledging it, like, I hear you, this is what I'm going to do about it. I'm not engaging with the content of whatever this is. And so I just wanted to share those things. There's things that have helped me learn about this are like internal family systems. So S.A.S.S has some really good stuff. Especially around like inner children and protective parts. And so that is something that I wanted to share, because I'm like, if you're finding that like you dig into this stuff and more stuff kicks up and you feel more dysregulated, that might be a system to look at, because it talks about dealing with the protective parts first, because our inner children can sometimes be exiled. And so if we just like engage with them, it can cause a lot of trouble, trouble and like strife within our internal world. And it doesn't happen always. And sometimes it's really subtle. And so I was really grateful for that teaching, and that's helped me understand with other people when people have like these massive responses to like just receiving love and care and compassion for those like more wounded parts of ourselves. But I think that's everything. My brain has run out of things to say. Thank you everyone for listening, and I will just hand it over to whoever's next.
Thank you, Petra. Let's see. We have Benny Lee next.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. So what Petra said about sometimes are, I think to me, it resonated with your inner child was maybe brought up in the wrong place for it to thrive and be accepting of its whole. And I have always felt like that. I've always felt like maybe I was displaced. Maybe this is not right. Even when I was little. And so I feel that like totally. And I feel like I've always been trying to catch up with the place I'm supposed to be in. And so that's what I've found my shadow work being, is trying to catch up with the place I'm supposed to be in, and trying to give myself the okay that what you're feeling is okay and the way you were going about it is okay, and those people don't know what they're talking about, and you were right because it was right for you. So sometimes I think what we find, what our body and what our mind and what our being tells us is the right thing for us, we should listen to, in lieu of all of the voices of dissent. You know yourself better. As in the veterinarian field, we always tell people, you know your pet better than we do, so you can tell us when your pet is XYZ. I feel like that is more applicable to people than we realize. You know your inner child and you know your inner self better than anybody else. So you can find those places that you need to be and those actions that need to be reacted on for you. So Petra, thank you for bringing that to light, because that makes me feel like it wasn't just my brain overacting and overthinking it. It really is, you know, you need to be in the place that you need to be in, regardless of where you are now.
Thank you, Jenny Lee. Morgana, you were next.
Hello. Um, so with um, Claire's trauma and inner child stuff all coming up, it popped into my head a couple of times. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I should say something about it. Um, I think this is the first time I had, a, I'll just say, supernatural experience. I was about 3, and there were these things that showed up that decided they were going to disguise themselves as Muppet, which you could tell they weren't. If you were a little older and a little wiser. And being 3, I was like, oh, sure, yeah. And then after that, there were some mischievous things that would happen that I didn't have a good explanation for. Then again, I was 3. And this happened, for a few years. And my parents thought I was just making up stories, but they really didn't have any background where they could understand this. And I didn't have any other adult figures to discuss it with. So, I was just like, oh, okay, it's another story. So what ended up for me is that ended up being a position where I wasn't fully I've been supported. So that became, a traumatic thing for me because there's this scary stuff happening. I need help. I'm not getting help. Um, so this is a way to do things. I'm not saying this is the way. There are many, many ways to use this. But the way I worked out for me, that worked for me, is I imagined a 2-year-old me in, the same place, the same scenario, and adult equipped, compassionate me showing up next to them, being like, what's going on? How can I help? And then helping them just like what I needed then. And actually, it was really fun because we got to make it into a hero story with a happy ending, which was, I'm tearing up a little because it was so fun. So I not only got to like repair that hurt for little me, we got to we got to replace it, a fun adventure. So that is one way that I was able to fix things for myself, and that reduced some of the barriers for me with um, spirit communication with others. With I don't even know what category that would fall in. So it's just things. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you so much, Morgana. Jen Marie.
I'm starting to write notes like for weigh-in stuff. Now I've got my list so that I don't lose track. Um, so much like on all of the things. Um, one thing I want to bring up and like and it is because of like the work that I've done with my relationship with my body. I have a visceral reaction when I hear someone say the word meat suit. Like, and I know that that is my own thing and a belief that by saying meat suit, it's a dissociative thing of like um, almost like calling a child a thing and referring to it as an it. Like that's where my brain goes when I hear like meat suit. And and I know that that is it's not like a judgment thing on anyone that uses that terminology, but it's interesting and I wanted to point it out that we can have reactions to the ways that other people communicate things and it can still be an us thing and not a thing that I am not calling anyone to change the way that they communicate, but it's interesting that my attention is there. And I know that my attention is there because I'm currently working on my relationship with my physical body, and my interpretive system makes that connection of it and that dissociative thing. Do you see how I can hold both as true and there's no judgment in like any way of that? But because my physical body has a reaction to that, it's bringing my attention to where do I still treat my body as an it instead of as a them or she, actually, because she, my physical body, is like physically and hormonally and all of that stuff, very like female, but I don't associate with that. Does that make sense at all? So yeah, I wanted to like bring that up just because it's like it was such a thing, like every time it's like, ooh. Um, but it's because my body is requiring me to look at them as a partner, because I have been a tyrant as of a team member so far, and not been a good mediator between my mind and my like physical body, uh and or my energetic body, if we want to go dipping our toes on the other side too. uh so it's okay, yeah, it's interesting how like how that came up for me. So thank you, Petra, for saying the words so that I could dive a little bit deeper into like my own relationship uh with that. But then another thing came up. Uh I am one of those really weird extreme trauma survivors that firmly believe that uh, I experienced these things as a part of my path. And because of the work that I'm doing now, my healing from those places, the paths that I took in that healing is bringing a lot of that. It's like I'm able to hold a lantern in places, um, in very dark places, that others couldn't hold that lantern because they've never been there. They don't know what that terrain looks like. And so saying things like I was raised in the wrong environment, or I should not have experienced these things, that pings me as well in different areas, in those areas, because like, yes, I didn't deserve to be treated in the way that I did. Yes, the things that I experienced were like horrific. Yes, like that um was very, I was exposed to a lot of very intense environments and experiences. But I don't say that I should not have experienced those things, because I did, right? And it feels to me like I invalidate my experience by saying that I should not have experienced those things, um, because I did, right? I didn't, again, didn't deserve it, didn't like ask for it, didn't like none of those things. Um, but God damn, am I a very strong and resourceful and tenacious uh, teacher and mentor and space holder and fairy godmother because of the things that I like experienced. Um, so yeah, there's that as well, and it's the relationship thing, is changing my relationship with the things that my system has experienced so far in this life. And yeah, that is the that is the things that I wanted to like, I don't know, speak on, bring attention to. Does that make sense? Like there's no reactions. When you guys are like crickets, it's really hard, because I don't know if I'm like blowing your minds, or if I'm like way off base, or like talking in circles, or like what. I need validation. Uh,
Oh, thank you, Jen Marie. I know I'm still processing some of the things you said personally.
oh, okay.
My mind is a little slow. Um, and I just saw a hand go up. Petra.
I was like, I can give you validation like in real time. That totally makes sense to me, like what you said. And also thank you for sharing what you shared about the word, and how it is, like how what it brought up in you. And I think I just find it so interesting how we all can have different experiences of language and what it can like evoke for different people. You know, I mean, like last week we kind of, the word resilience came up, and you know, some people have quite a visceral reaction to it and whatnot. And I also was like, I also don't like this word because it was in healthcare, was like used to like be like, here's, let's gaslight you, like you need more resilience. But I also was like, because of my autistic brain, and like obviously I'm like hyperverbal and I love words, and so that focus for me, I'm like, but it's the most accurate word, and so my brain gets really stuck on those things. And so I think it's always interesting to hear how we all like experience language, because it can be so different. And I learned the word like in a yoga, from a yoga teacher, like probably a decade ago now. And it was like, because of being in healthcare and the word like body, body, body is everywhere, I was like, I love this because it identifies this like, I the feeling I had of like, I am not just this thing that everyone sees, because I very much felt that in my life, like growing up. My mom is very like toxic in terms of diet stuff and weight and all of this. She's very judgmental, and if I was not as stubborn and like just willfully like F you, thanks Scorpio placements, I probably would have gotten an eating disorder as a kid. And I think, you know, we all, like anybody who grew up in the 2000s, like there there's a lot to like to that, and there still is, I think. To be perfectly honest, there's more than enough influence of like these things not being of telling us what we're supposed to look like, what our bodies are supposed to appear as. And so that we're, you know, the word helped me like differentiate from like, I am not just like the way that everyone perceives me. Like the thing that I walk around in, this meat suit that I like, that I'm in, is not all that I am. And so that was, that's how I interact with the word. I mean, I've had other people that I've interacted with, like spiritual people, that call it a flesh prison, and I'm like, that's like kind of, oh, I don't know what that's not for me. But you know, I hear you with like the dissociative piece, and I think that's really interesting because like I started using it a lot when I was in a time period of dissociation. And so maybe there is something to that when I'm trying to like distance myself from like what I'm experiencing. And I get lots of sensory overwhelm. So there are times when I'm like, my body is too loud and there's no way to quiet it. And it definitely more so is like, I'm like, I would like to be out. I would like to be not dealing with this. So thank you for that. And I just wanted to express some gratitude for this space and just like for everyone here. So that was, I'm just like was thinking about this. I'm like, I'm really grateful in this moment for that, and having a place to unpack these things and to talk about stuff and process and whatnot. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Now I'm unmuted. Thank you, Petra. And I just want to let you know that we are at the 15-minute mark until we hit 2 hours. So, Jen Marie, go ahead.
I completely fucking forgot what I was gonna say. Like, this is so funny. I was like, oh yay, and then I like did the thing and then forgot what I was gonna say. But it was, oh my god, it was like, what you were talking. Oh my god, damn it! I hate that. Like, it's so frustrating. Um. Oh my god, it was so good. Like, it was like, ah. And it's something that I've been trying to like. I've been wanting to say for a little while now. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, guys. Like, it
It'll
was a
come to
nugget
you.
too. Like, it'll come back. It'll come back. Dang it. Like, why? Like, it is completely gone. Um, with the that's so fun. That's so fun. So admittedly, uh, remember my doctor's orders of not exerting myself and blah blah blah. Well, yeah, I totally threw that to the wind yesterday, and we did like big projects around the house and everything. And I realized that like I hit a point that my brain shuts off and I get that overstimulated and cannot think anymore kind of thing. So I pushed myself too hard yesterday, and I'm feeling that today. Um, so learning to listen a little bit better and to be like a better like partner to a better partner to my body. Um, and I'm kind of rambling because I'm hoping that I can like bait that little nugget to come forward again because it was really so frustrating. Why didn't I write it down, man?
You're doing really well with writing things down too.
I know I did it twice. It was so good. I was on this like little roll there. It's awesome. Mm, I don't know. I lost it. I like completely lost it. Like I have no idea what it was about now. So that's fun. Crickets. Man.
Giving you my energy to help you remember.
Yeah, like give it. No.
Morgana.
Um, using alternate names for one's body besides the body. Um, I first picked up on it like in 90s industrial goth culture, because, the tech owners, they're like, no, bodies are bad. You know, we should just be, pure energy, be electronic beings. So it kind of stuck with me from there. And it resonated to me because I had never felt comfortable in my own body for multiple reasons. Um, Part unknowingly being trans at the time, I didn't know. Um, Partly because I had been diagnosed dissociative disorder, um, and you know, just having a really poor relationship with my body. So I had a lot of reasons that really fit with me. I actually was talking about this yesterday too. And um, since I've ended up talking about it twice, and um, one of the things that I noticed that's most out of balance for me currently is I'm not connected to my body very well, you know? My system, a collective, I have been there recently, but right now I'm not, and I know why, partly. But I guess that's something I should work on right now. Um, and what was it? I have no idea where I was going with this. Um, well, I guess I just I understand why some people would not feel comfortable or have a wish to choose to use other terms. Because I have been one of those people through various reasons. And Yeah, coincidentally, I'm also going to see how I can work on changing. Yeah.
And that's what we get to do this month together. Like looking at this, like, I know, right? Yay. But it does help having a community that we can just like talk to about these kinds of things, and this like, oh, I'm going to play with this practice this week. This week I'm going to see what happens when I bring my attention specifically to how I refer to my body, right? Or, oh, I remember the word. 5 minutes left. I remembered it. Okay. How much of your relationship with your body has to do with control, right? That's been so big. That's where I'm like, hey, I've been a tyrant is because I've been obsessed with controlling my body. I need to control what I eat. I need to control how much I drink. I need to control my emotions and control, how much, all of these things. And the big, huge thing that I'm working on, because my annual catalyst, so the year I dedicate a year to a specific thing. And my relationship with control is this year's project, apparently, from what all of my guides and all the catalysts are saying. But bringing my awareness to my relationship with control with regards to my physical body is blowing my mind. And like even removing the word control, I need to get my body under control so that I can go and do this thing. I need to get my sleep under control because blah, blah, blah. And every time I use the word control with regards to my, like internally use the word control, I'm flagging that and just like putting a flag in it. And then I'm going to address changing that neural pathway and going, how can I support my body? Where can I support? Where does it need some support here? Uh, and where is there a place where balance, where what needs my attention, what needs balance, how can I balance the distribution of energetic like stuff of flow, right? So yes, that's it. Isn't it good? That's a nugget, isn't it? So that's why it was driving me crazy with the whole like control thing. But thank you, everyone, for another wonderful SAS Mass. This is great conversation as always. And thank you for everyone that was brave and able to share with us. Thank you, everyone, for participating exactly in the way that you feel comfortable and ready to participate. Your energy, just being present, makes a really big difference, and no guilt or shame for just listening in, because that's all a part of it, uh, and you are important and you are valid, and I love you. And oh, Petra, we got 2 minutes.
Sorry, for
It's
some
okay.
thing, just I was like, no, I don't need to do it, and then my body was like, F you do. I was like, okay. um just that I have that trauma anniversary of like waking up in my life on April 12th, and so if anyone wants to support me energetically on that day, just like think of me, like hold compassion in your heart for me, whatever. It doesn't have to be anything big. Just be like, whatever. I am open to receive that on that day. I don't know what it's going to be like. This build up to it has been very different. I'm in a very different place than I was last year at the 1 year anniversary. So, but I just was like, I had the lone wolf part that was like, no, it's okay. We don't need any help from anybody. And I was just like, like, okay, I'm just going to say it. So that's all. But I hope everyone, and I appreciate you all like so much. So much.
We got you, Petra. All right, cousins. May your practice be expansive. and filled with many blessings, bright and dark. See you next week.
Thank you. Kim, can you end the recording for me, please?
Yes.